Now we're moving on to the final segment, which is called the bottom line.
That's it.
Sound effect there?
No, it's just that Mike likes to call it the terrible twos. So I was waiting for him to say, you mean the terrible twos?
Nope, the bottom line.
It's the final two questions of the show. That's it. Mike does his karate chop moves. And the final two questions, the most important two questions, in fact, we save them for the end. Number one is Michael Kenyon Rosenberg. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode? I know not to be fooled by that. What would you give the first episode of Disenchantment entitled, it was a long one, A Princess, an Elf, and a Demon Walk into a Bar?
A princess, an elf, and a demon walk into a bar. I would give this episode a 9. I agree that they accomplished everything that they set out to do. The humor was on point, and more importantly, the humor set the tone for the rest of the series so far too. So they introduced all the main characters, even the very small introduction you get of Una, Princess Bean's stepmother. She has this little fun segment where she's like, I have sex with your father. And Bean's like, I don't want to hear about that. This one time I felt like I had a bunch of butterflies. I shouldn't have eaten so many. So you get a small introduction to her. She plays a bigger role later, but you get introduced to her. You get introduced to Bee and Lucy, Alpha. Even Merkimer plays a bigger part later, and you get introduced to him. So I like that. I think it's a solid pilot, solid first episode, because it shows you what the rest of the series is going to be, but it doesn't tell you everything. It still leaves some amount of mystery, and there is not a lot of magic in this first episode. I mean, there's a demon that appears, and there's like elves and stuff like that, but there's a lot more magic later on in the series, if that entices anybody. Ryan?
It doesn't change anything. We base this on the first episode.
9 out of 10.
Very good. Neil, this is the big one. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode?
And by the way, is anything flashing at me? Because I have this light on and it's blinking, which is it's very disorienting for me. But as long as it's not disorienting anyone else.
Not at all. I enjoy it.
You see it blinking like a Christmas light right now?
No.
All right. If I go into an epileptic shock or something, that explains why.
Oh, wait.
Noted.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. All right. You see it? Okay. I wish I could just go light-o zingo, and I assume that's how the magic works in this episode.
No.
I don't know, because they don't really reveal a lot of the magic yet, but we know that there's magic. First of all, I just want to say I'm not a huge I'm not a huge fan of rating things, because I have stuff out there that people rate, and when people are like, I give this a 3 out of 10, or this was like really good, 4 out of 10, it actually it kind of hurts the people who create it if they're not just giving you 10 out of 10. So I'm not a huge rater, and so I'm going to skew a little bit high, because I know what it's like to be rated low. I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10.
Wowie.
I think it was really well done. It's not my, cup of tea necessarily, but
is it your flagon of ale though?
I would drink from the flagon. I would sip from the flagon of ale. I think it's a really smart show for what it does. It's jam-packed full of jokes, but it also it has a nice sort of story, identifiable story with these characters. Very modern humor set in medieval times. The episode was a lot of fun, and it leaves you on a cliffhanger, literally.
A cliff faller.
A cliff faller, if you will. Right. It's a cliff faller, not a cliffhanger. Big difference. Cliffhanger is a great movie, though. Sylvester Stallone. We should review that movie. Fantastic.
We don't do movies. We just do the first episodes of series.
Okay. All right.
We only watch the first of things. You can't watch the first of a movie, because that's the whole thing.
Unless there's like 3 other cliffhangers. If there were like, if Stallone made it into like 6 cliffhangers, like in Rocky or something, but he didn't, unfortunately.
May I remind you guys, we have an audience watching this.
Right.
Do we though?
8.5 out of 10. Lovely show. Not my thing, but if you're into Simpsons, Futurama, all those other cartoons that I don't really know about, I'm sure you'll dig this one.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
this is what I've really been waiting, the real waiting for right here.
really? Wow. You wait a lot. You know, I'm taking two things that have been said about me recently to heart. One was when Michael called me a curmudgeon earlier today. And the other was when Neil said, you know, when you rate things low, it hurts people. That wasn't said about me, but kind of felt like it was. So for that reason, I am adding 0.5 to this. So I'm going to give it a 2 point. No, I'm just kidding. Let me think. Here's the thing.
Ryan, the master of misdirection.
I like the world. I love D&D kind of stuff. I love fantasy stuff. I love that it's animated so that you can just make as many ogres and gnomes and you have no limits. You know, you don't have like, you know, because drawing something is drawing something. The budget's basically going to be the same. Whereas in real life stuff or live action stuff, you know, you have to build this ogre and orc, whatever. So it's cool. And it's going to create this world of gnomes and ogres and elves and all this kind of stuff, which I love. I was also very impressed with how many one-liners they had in there. Very, very impressed with how clever and good they were about that. Not terribly enthralled by the story itself. I mean, it's just like it's a very, you know, usual kind of pilot. You know, three characters come together and they go off and they do, you know, whatever. Cool, the little call to action kind of thing or whatever in a way. So I was going to give it a 7, straight down the middle. I know, a very impressed 7, but I'm going to give it a 7.5 now because of you guys and because honestly I feel like it deserves better than a 7. It was just when the show ended and I put it away and I went, I just kind of thought feels like a 7. Just kind of more of a feeling, but very sophisticated writing, and I was impressed.
How can we get that up to an 8?
What do we have to do?
If we just make it like scale of, you know, 2 to or 1.5 to 10.5, I'll make it an 8.
All right, 8 it is. Mark it down.
Now, the other thing is the final question is the real bottom line. For the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of Disenchantment. But now that the podcast is over and you're free to move about the internet, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, would you watch the second episode of your own volition?
Well, I have, but that's not the question.
Yeah,
I have watched the second episode at least a couple times. And I would continue watching because I've only seen season 3 one time. So I'd be very interested to see season 3 again. So I'd want to watch the whole thing through to season 3, probably hopefully before season 4 comes out. That way I'm fresh in my mind about what happened.
All right. Neil, based on this first episode, would you watch the second?
I would not, you know, and that's no shine at the show and the people who made it. It's just not my thing. You know, a TV show is a big time engagement. You got to spend a lot of time, and I watch a lot of movies. I watch a lot of weird movies and old movies, and when I watch TV shows, I generally watch stuff that I am truly obsessed with. So I didn't feel obsessed with this show, though it was lovely, and I imagine a lot of the audience would enjoy watching a second. So please don't, you know, please don't base your engagement in the show off of what I'm saying.
Oh, they totally will.
Abundantly clear already. You know,
So like we know what Ryan and Mike are going to say. What we're really interested is what is their guest going to say. Reminds me of something a professor of mine once said. She said, "Don't read good books, only read the great ones."
That, you know, you only have a certain amount of time, and there's so much great stuff out there vying for our attention these days, and it's hard for me to get into something unless I am just, you know.
Great. You just made everybody go, "You're right," and turn off this episode. Like, what am I doing with my
Why
life?
are we wasting our lives watching
What's
these
going on here?
dipshits?
I just watch them while I'm ironing. But I don't think anybody was surprised when Neil said, "I watch a lot of weird movies." They're like, "Yeah, that tracks."
Cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. Well, for me,
All right, this is all those things I was waiting for before. This is the one right here.
That's it, folks. Drum
Neil,
roll.
you are here to witness the first day that Mike discovered his catchphrase. So I would not watch the second episode because
Ryan, come on.
I'm just-
Ryan.
I'm not opposed. Here's the thing. I'm not opposed to watching the next. It's a very easy watch. If somebody had it on, it wouldn't bother me. And I do feel like it's something where you can kind of half watch or you could completely watch and it's still entertaining either way. If you're just watching for the one-liners, you can fade in and out. If you want to really try to pick up on everything, you know, it's good for everybody. But, you know, there wasn't this compelling story that made me feel like I didn't feel like I needed to watch the next episode to find out what would happen, even though they fell off a cliff and I'm supposed to be like, oh my God, you know, I was like, is the hawk going to come save him? I don't know.
No, that's a good one.
See, but the hawk might be like, oh no, it's that dick. I'm sick of him. I don't know. I'm not opposed to watching it. And I do think it deserves to be watched a second time. It is good enough for people to watch it. It's certainly not a reflection on the show. It's more of just a reflection on me and
Your curmudgeonous.
and to be perfectly honest, I might watch,
Curmudgeonicity, yeah.
I might watch the second episode. I might just put it on while I'm doing something or whatever, just to have it on and watch a couple jokes here or there. But it's not something that I necessarily would go out and need to watch, if that makes sense. So it's
Well, I'll just
close.
tell everybody out there. I know that Ryan's going to be a curmudgeon, but as you can imagine, if you've seen this first episode, there's those two people that called Lucy up to be with Bean, and they play a larger part. And not only there's like way more than that too. The story gets way more intricate and way more interesting beyond just all the hilarious jokes.
What would you give okay, here's a bonus. What would you give the entire series so far, Michael? 1 to 10.
So far the entire series, I would give it an 8.75. A little bit lower than my rating of this first episode, but solid so far all the way through.
Cool. Wow. Maybe I will cheat and watch the second someday. Maybe. I'm not planning on it. Anyway,
Yes.
Neil, thank you so much for joining us. You're always lots of fun to hang out with and lots of fun to work with. We do hope you come back sometime, unless you didn't enjoy it.
Unless you hated us,
Screw you
yeah.
for judging us.
Yeah, let's rate this episode. No, yeah, I had a lovely time. I'd love to come back if the gods desire it. This is a lot of fun, guys. Thank you for having me on.
The gods that may or may not exist.
Right.
He, she, or it may watch over us if that's something that they think they want to do.
Cool. So basically what I'm trying to say is
Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Tell us what to watch. Do our job for us.
Please, and share this around. Tell your friends. Who cares? Like, what do you got to do that's so important? You can't share this video around and give Neil some love and
why
give
do you
us
hate
some
us?
Yeah, we're all friends. This podcast was the contest 2 reunion.
Oh, is it 20 year?
Except Darth wasn't here.
Neil played the part
13-year reunion.
Yeah, Neil played the part of New Ryan. Whoa.
Well,
Whoa.
new Ryan,
that.
new Ryan contestant,
right.
new Ryan auditioner.
Yeah, applicant.
Was I like
Yeah.
bizarre Ryan? I was just like really, I just liked everything I watched, and
He was
It's like-
applying to replace me as Mike and Darth's friend.
New Ryan Levo. All right,
Very
this
funny.
episode was a 4 out of 4.
Whoa!
I got you.
Perfect.
Pulled the old Ryan on you. Neil, what was this episode?
I give this episode a
20,
20
out
or
of
10. That's
50.
20 out of 20 out of 50. No, that's
That's
no,
a 4 out of
low.
10.
That's 40. Wait a minute. No, this was this is a 10 out of 10. This is the Bo Derek of of episodes of reviews of the TV show, the first episode of Disenchantment.
Bo knows tens.
Mm,
Oh,
That's
yeah.
an old
different.
sports reference.
different Bo.
Okay. Bo Bridges. All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining us. Check out Neil's goodies down below. And always remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg likes to say.
Don't forget, you better sign up to be an organ donor, but also watch the first episode of Disenchantment, people.
You don't always say that.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever said that specific phrase, but I always say something like that.